Good evening, everyone. Welcome back to the channel. Today, I've decided to start a chapter of the American civilization, and I'm going to break the videos into short ones from 8 minutes till 15 minutes maximum. So, um, these lectures, the upcoming lectures, are mainly made for first, second, and third year students. Maybe I do not know about the program of every university, but I think it would be helpful for those who study civilization. And for master students, I do not know, but hey, if it is helpful, if you can benefit from them, that's more like it. So, uh, the first part of the many parts of the American civilization is the first settlements. We are going to deal with three chapters. The first one is the first settlements. The second one is trade and colonization. The third one is the 13 colonies. So, before I start, we need to have a general view about the American civilization. We need to know that the American civilization is linked with the British civilization. If you need to know about the British civilization, I have already posted some videos about it, and I hope it will be useful to you. So, it is linked because the people who went there to colonize America were English, and they are English, and so they went from England to America, and also we had some French who went to live there, Spanish or Spaniards. We have Irish as well. A lot of people went to America. This is why America is known for its diversity, a mixture of cultures, religions, languages, but English is the official language of America or the United States as it is known today. But before it was not the United States, they were called the 13 colonies. Because when we call them 13 colonies, it means they still work under the authority of the King of England. So we cannot tell or we cannot say that they are independent. They were not independent. They were under the authority of the king, who is George III mainly. So, with that being said, we need to know, how did people went to America? It was in the age of the Renaissance, and the Renaissance encouraged the discoveries of the world. People started exploiting the sea. They started expanding. Empires were getting stronger, and England had a strong navy. The British Navy is very strong, and then we can say that they discovered the New World, because it was not named America at the time. It was called the New World, the Promised Land as well. So some of the Englishmen and Englishwomen decided to go to America to found homes to settle there in what we call the 13 colonies. Now, when we speak about the first settlement, which was established in America, it was established more precisely in Jamestown, Virginia, by Captain John Smith in 1607. So, the first settlement, the first colony, the first place, the first people who went there officially to settle in the New World, they went to a town called Jamestown, more precisely in Virginia. Virginia still exists today as an independent state and in the United States of America. And this town, Jamestown, it was established in 1607. But we need to know that, before the establishment of this town, there was a man called Walter Raleigh. Walter Raleigh, who is a British adventurer. He lived with the Indians, and he discovered tobacco, which was brought to Britain at the end of the 16th century, mainly in the year of 115. So, this Walter Raleigh, he went to America long before the establishment of the New World. He lived with the Indians in harmony. He did not wage wars against the Indians. They were the natives. They lived there. They were there before the arrival of the English people. So we call them the natives. So he lived with them. He discovered tobacco, and tobacco did not exist in Europe at that time. So since he discovered that thing, he exported tobacco to Europe, and Europeans started actually to like it. From then, we can see that the Europeans are interested to know about the land that could produce tobacco because it was something that people liked a lot at that time. So then we have the first settlement in Jamestown in 1607. I hope it is clear for now, and then we shall move to some interesting facts about Jamestown. Jamestown had a flourishing economy from tobacco crop. So people who lived in Jamestown, they had a great economy, but from what? From tobacco crop. Right, so they were practicing agriculture in order to produce tobacco, and they exported tobacco to Europe and England. And Jamestown had only men in 1607, only men who were living in Jamestown. But in 1620, women were brought to found homes, and many plantations had been established, and or we can say created. So in 1607, only men used to live in Jamestown, but in 1620, England sent women in order to found, I don't know, families, to arrange marriages, and to get to have kids, families, etc., in order to increase the population. Because after the arrival of women, we have noticed that there was an increase of population in population of Jamestown. When you have the increase of population, you have an increase in the working hand. So the economy is still flourishing. And these people of Jamestown, they worked together collectively, and they dealt with problems together, and they worked with what their land gave them. An important fact about the 13 colonies in general, it is the fact that these people of the 13 colonies, they worked with what their land gave them. For example, Virginia had a great land, so they practiced agriculture. But in the north, it was cold. They did not have agriculture, so they had to adapt. They had to improvise. They had to live with. So, since they did not have agriculture, they became industrious. They started building ships because they had dense forests in general. So people started to adapt according to their environment, and it worked. They had a great economy, although there are differences. Some practiced agriculture, some were industrious, some others were mixing between the two in general. Now we move to the second point, the major point, which is trade and colonization. When we speak about trade and colonization, we mainly speak about expeditions that were sponsored by private companies or so-called chartered companies. This is very important, quite important in this the whole subject. The chartered companies, basically, or the private companies, they are companies which were given the authorization by the king in order to establish a colony in America. So, for example, you are a great noble, you have a lot of money, you are wealthy, you decided to go to the New World and establish your own colony. You go to the king gives you the authorization, the pass in order to go to the New World and establish your colony, but you will still be working according to the king's laws, to the king's, you are going to be under the protection and the laws of the King of England. So these are called the chartered companies, and these chartered companies, they sponsored, they were the reason, the mean of how English people went to the New World. And we have some famous chartered companies like Massachusetts Bay Company or Virginia Company. And some other companies or colonies belong to the English gentry and nobility, for example, York or New York, like it is known today. Then we move to the last chapter of this video, which is the 13 colonies. The 13 colonies we shall know them by heart because it is very important. There's nothing to understand about them. They are states that we know today, and they are very important to know as well. So we start with Massachusetts, we have New Hampshire, we have Rhode Island, we have Connecticut, we have New York, we have New Jersey, we have Pennsylvania, we have Delaware, Maryland, Virginia, North and South Carolina, these are two colonies, and we have Georgia. These colonies became states after the War of Independence. But some of these colonies were, of course, chartered colonies. They were a result of an expedition of a chartered company, but most of them, they were offshoots. What do we mean by offshoots? Um, they were established without the consent of the king. They did not need the authorization of the king in order to be established. Why? Because living in a company like Massachusetts, at first it was good, but problems started to emerge between those who govern and the people. And since they were not in England, they left the colonies. They went somewhere else in America because America is a vast land, and they established their own colony. And this is what we call the offshot. So in this video, I hope it is clear and useful. And if you have any kind of question, please feel free to message me. I'm going to leave my personal email in the description, and I'm going to leave my Facebook link. And please share the video with your classmates. And I tell you, see you next video, and peace.